this came up for me to talk about, and so I wanted to expand on the topic of healing and really get into the process and what that looks like, what that um, feels like, you know. So before I can talk about why healing feels boring, I heard that this morning on TikTok, and the TikTok was like, "Yo, I'm tired of self awareness. I'm tired of um, being on my healing journey. I'm tired of this. It's boring. I want to have fun. I don't feel like I'm living my life. I feel like um, I'm boring and nothing is happening for me anymore." And I was like, yeah, that's a part of that. That's a part of the journey. Let's talk about it. So, if you don't know me, I'm Zoha. I'm a yoga teacher, a Reiki healer, a crystal enthusiast, author, a jewelry designer. I do a whole lot of stuff. I'm a mom. And I like to use this channel to share what I encounter. I don't know, I'm gonna stop saying what I know, because every time I know something, some days it changes depending on the person that I'm interacting with or the situation that I'm experiencing. So, what I encounter, I like to share things that I encounter on my healing journey, and of course, my yoga practice, and any other thing that I feel could be helpful to anyone who is exploring themselves, whether it's a healing journey or not. Exploration can be varied, and it gets to be shared in community. And so that's why I love to do this. So when I heard that TikTok this morning talking about healing being boring, I was like, yeah, I get that. It's boring. It's just so lonely, especially at the beginning. When I first started my healing journey, I realized that I didn't get, not that I didn't get to do a lot of things that I was doing, but a lot of things that I was doing wasn't necessary. You get what I'm saying? It's a difference. It's not that I didn't have to do those things, it's just that they weren't necessary for me to experience myself. A lot of the ways of being that I had been indoctrinated into being were false realities and false accounts of who I wanted to be. And so, hi, thank you, good morning. And so, when I was genuine about doing the healing work, a lot of the chaotic behavior that I had invested in a lot of my life became not just unattractive but unnecessary. Unnecessary. The arguing, the needing friends around to gossip, um, going out all the time, just doing all these things that separated me from myself. That's what a lot of that was. A lot of it was interference from me doing the work that I needed to do on myself. If I'm always constantly caught up in my friends business, or trying to help them do something, or I'm always at the club partying, or out having a drink, or at brunch, or doing something to distract myself, then am I even with me? Am I even with me? And that's when I realized that most of my life I had been trained to not be with myself and to not like myself. This othering of way we choose to create community in a way that is not healthy functionally for most of us. It's the codependency, codependent relationships. For most of our friendships, our family relationships, our codependent relationships, where we depend on each other in such a way that the individual person does not get to grow into a space where they love and like themselves. And I didn't like myself, and that's why I didn't want to be alone with myself. And when I had to sit, I chose to sit alone because it's a choice. Healing is a choice that you make day by day by day, second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour. It's nobody can make you do it. You have to choose it, right? So when I chose myself, because that's what you're choosing. When you choose to heal, you're choosing yourself. When I chose myself, I had to learn how to like myself so that I couldn't be like, this is boring. Because it's not that healing is boring, it's that you are boring without all those extra things, without all the friends, without the parties, without the people, without the things to tell people that I went on a trip here and I did this, without the stories. You're boring. You have nothing to offer anyone because you don't know yourself. You have a version of yourself that you have concocted and created for the public eye. And that's how we're taught to exist. It's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. But when you say healing is born, it's not that healing is born. It's that trauma is seductive. It's that trauma is chaotic. And chaos is addictive. It's like drugs. You need it. You need the chaos so that you can have a conversation outside of yourself that doesn't include you. You think it includes you. You think it's about you because this person did this thing to me, right? But the trick is you're not really focused on you. You're focused on that person, how you interacted and they interacted with you. Let me see what y'all said. Jamila, thanks, Jesse. Jamila said, I feel like that's where I am right now on my journey. The past couple of months, the universe has purposely sent me two ladies that I know for a fact of my tribe and hard to put words. The way these comments are coming up right now. Hard to put into words. Okay. Thanks, Jamila, for that. Yes. And that's what happens, right? When I first started, I had mega tons of friends. And when I started isolating to be by myself, everyone was dropping off. And at first I was kind of like, the outside external view was like, oh, they don't like me. And it wasn't that. I was changing. I was transforming. They weren't sure who they were interacting with anymore. The old me that was fun and chaotic and loved to do shit that didn't support my best interest was interesting, was fun, right? And the people who survived that transformation, it looks different from other friendships, but they are very genuine, I can tell. I'm happy for you, sis. That's what we always need, a good tribe. The people who didn't survive that transformation dropped off, right? So we're no longer friends. We're no longer family. Yes, family. We're no longer friends. We're no longer family. We're family by blood, but we are not family because we're not connected. Those people left. They left my space. There was no arguments, and that's the thing. The trauma tells us that you have to argue with people about who you are. You have to make them like who you are and accept who you are right now, and force people to get into this new you. And you don't have to do that. You just be you. You're just being you. Unfortunately, the indoctrination, either as a child or your formative years when you were a teenager that you withstood, took that away from you. You left it there. You gave it up to fit in with the crowd. We all do it sometimes. We've all done it in our lives to assimilate. We've all assimilated in one way or another. And I used to pride myself on not assimilating because I am not a whitewashed Black woman. I do not use code switching. I do not participate in certain ideals of the Black community that will so-called get us ahead. But I did assimilate in certain ways in order to be accepted more by my peers. You know what I'm saying? So I had to shake a lot of that off in order to get back to what's authentically me. And that wasn't going to be attractive to the people who are attracted to my facade. It just wasn't going to be attractive to them. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. The me that was holding my tongue because I wanted my family to feel comfortable around me all the time. I didn't want to offend anybody by telling the truth. When we would get together and not have real conversations. Because everybody just want to have a good time, but in reality, our family was not having a good time. Like, we were not having a good time. We were just acting like it. And then I had to be the person I chose to be the person to say, no, this needs to be talked about. Because I'm not going to have my children in this. They're not going to grow up in this type of familial space. We're going to talk about things that need to be talked about. And so clearly, I'm going to do that with you guys. And when that wasn't accepted, I had to let that part of my family go. Just like the friends I had. If I couldn't have a real conversation with the person that I considered my friend, then that was the end of it. Like, if I'm expressing myself to you clearly with openness and vulnerability, and you want to tell me this is not what you think or whatever, then this friendship is not going to make it, because I'm telling you this is how I see myself. This is what I'm experiencing from the world. Now, as I was going through these processes, I was very lonely. I was very alone. And it feels lonely because you're used to the chaos. You're used to the need for feedback, connection, and all of that stuff. You value it. Like, it's like, a part of your experience, like getting people to validate you is a part of your experience here. And so leaving that behind, leaving behind the validation, was a big deal. And I found that I did, like Jamila said, attracted not new friends. I still had these some of these people were my friend the whole time, but our friendships became more tangible and stronger than they were, because I was more authentic. I was stepping into my authenticity, and so I made it safe for these people to connect to me deeper. And the people who were closest to me or closer to me, who did not connect with me authentically because I was not authentic, fell off. And that was okay. It was a good exchange, right? So I got people who really saw me and valued me in exchange for people who, not that they didn't see me and value me, but the person that I was transforming into, they were not interested in investing in any further. You get? So a lot of times we think people are our friend, or they don't like us, or they don't love us. No, the version of us that we were before we started doing our healing work was more attractive to them. It was more in alignment with where they are vibrationally, right? So as your vibration changes, the people around you vibration changes. Either they're going to vibrate with you, or they're going to vibrate away from you. Just, that's a part of life, right? And the trauma, needing to constantly have those type of situations where you're arguing, fighting, or explaining yourself, constantly having a back and forth energy. That's all trauma is. Trauma is that energy of needing to have friction, needing that, like that experience in order to feel alive on some level. Because a lot of my senses were so dull, were so unused, because the only sense that I was tapped into was trauma. I was tapped into anger. I would say I was passionate, but I was really angry. I was really mad and frustrated. But I would say, I'm passionate. I'm passionate about it. Now I'm passionate. It's different. I'm passionate now, but before I was angry. I was upset. I lived in a lot of fear. I lived in a lot of doubt. I lived in a lot of pain. And not being able to direct that pain at someone caused grief. And that's what that person was talking about when they said healing is boring. this morning when I heard them on TikTok. They said, healing is boring. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being self-aware. I'm about to go back and get me a life. Yes, the old you is dying. It knows it's dying. Your trauma knows it's dying, that you're making peace with it, and it's fighting for its life. Why? Because your trauma is a parasite. It's an entity. Some people would say a demon. But it's an energy, basically. And it wants to stay alive just like you. And if it has to attach itself to you and make you relive traumatic circumstances over and over and over again with every person that comes in your life, then that's what it'll do. That's what it'll do to survive. It doesn't care. It doesn't care about you. Your trauma wants to be heard, felt, wants to be sentient like you. So it eats at you and everything around you to stay alive. And that's why healing is boring. Because peace is uncomfortable when you're used to trauma and chaos. Peace is unsettling when you're used to trauma and chaos. Why would you want to be alone, quiet, without anyone screaming at you, accusing you of things, bothering you, mislabeling you, judging you? No, I need that so that I can feel alive. I need that. That's what your trauma is telling you. Jamila, not for me, but I've had people ask, how do I get support for things such as this? I know for me, my support has just kind of showed up. And Coral said, how did you shift or heal those things so that they were no longer reliving the past experiences? Jamila, I'm glad you didn't have that much of a struggle. And Coral, I'll say, so when I realized that I was in a loop, because that's what it is, it's a loop. Like everybody says, like we think of time travel as you're going to get in a machine, you're going to go back to the past or go to the future. But time travel is literally feelings. If you think about it, technically, you can go back to a time in your life where things were either awesome or not awesome, and you can feel it. It's palpable. It's on your skin. It's in your space. If you go back to a very traumatic time, you're crying. If you go back to a very joyous time, you feel great. You want to create that, recreate that. You want that energy in your life. And so what I realized, I was in a time loop of going back to these certain times in my life where things were not good. And that time loop that I was stuck on was recreating those same relationships with different people in different bodies. So I could always have the same story of people are doing this to me, or people are harming me in this way, or nobody likes me, right? So once I realized I was on this time loop, I had to choose something different. And that's what I did. I chose something different where I would normally submerge myself in a group of people in order to function in a sort of a way. I became reclusive. I started only hanging out with me, going to the movies by myself, going to eat by myself, doing everything by myself. You don't have no clothes on, ma'am. Ma'am? Get out of here. Gone. You know I don't like when you don't have no clothes on and you try to come in here. Go put some clothes on, mommy. This is my daughter, Marley. So I started doing the opposite of what I would normally do. So if I felt like on a Saturday I needed to go out, like I had this deep urge, I wanted to go out, I would make myself sit in the house. If there was a party, and I'm the type of person, in the past, I would go to a party and I would be the party girl. I'm the party. I'm making everybody laugh. I'm dancing in the middle of the room. I'm telling all the jokes. I'm that girl. So if there was a party and I wanted to go to the party, instead of doing that, I would sit back and be reserved. I would observe the space, be in the space and not take over the space. I would switch my behaviors around wherever I was so that I could deal with why I needed to do that. Why did I need to be the party girl? Well, because I didn't like me. Because I wanted other people to like me. I got validation from people laughing at my jokes and dancing with me and making me feel like I was fun. I didn't need that. I knew I was fun. I know I'm fun. I don't have to prove to anybody that I'm fun. But that had become a part of my existence. It had become a part of who I was. I had to stop myself mid-sentence in a lot of my conversations. Right, just do what you have to do until you come out the loop. Right, I had to stop myself mid-sentence in a lot of conversations. I was a former people pleaser. So when somebody would tell me something, I would feel like I instantly had to jump in, help them, save them, change the situation. Stop doing it. I just stopped being all the things that I felt like I had to be or that I had come to be for the people around me to like me, to be my friend, to be my family, even my family. I had to stop being the daughter who always tried to make sense of everything, tried to be the peacemaker. I had to stop being the peacemaker. I always want everything just to be good. Shit wasn't good. It was a lie. I was dedicated to the lie because I wanted everything to feel right. I had to be willing to feel uncomfortable. I had to be very uncomfortable. I had to be very alone. I had to redo everything that I thought I knew about myself because it was a lie. Almost everything about me was a facade. It was for validation. And I lived that way for a long time. And I stopped being like I'm being right now with you, very honest, very truthful. And I thought I was being honest, but technically I was just being mean to a lot of people, right? Calling them out when it was convenient, but not really having an honest and authentic conversation with them at the time when they would do something that that warranted an honest and authentic conversation, right? So I had to really do some work on myself, and it took a lot of time being alone. I spent a lot of time with my ancestors praying, asking them, begging them to help me, like really help me, like heal this disconnect from myself, this hole that I felt for most of my life. And I love you too. I love you too, but you know you don't have no clothes on. I would love to give you all the hugs and all the kisses, but you gotta put your nightgown back on. Okay, mommy. Okay. I love you too. I love you too. But it's just, you know, I've been doing this since actively. See, there's levels of healing, right? There's passive healing. This is when you don't know you're healing, but you're entering contracts with other people where you learn things. Then there's active healing, which is you're actually paying attention to the conversations you're having, the interactions you're having. You're making an active choice to change or to shift your ways of being in the spaces that you're in and with yourself. So actively healing, I started in 2008. I went to a class and I learned some very difficult things to hear about myself. And at first, I was in denial because I was like, no, I'm a good person. You know how we all like to say, I'm a good person. That's the fallback. I'm a good person. Yeah, I was a good person when people were looking. Because that's how I've been taught to be a good person. I've been taught to do good when people were looking. Not to be good when people weren't looking. When people weren't looking, I was a shitty person. I had terrible habits. Can you elaborate more on the contracts, please? Marley, come on, bud. Don't do that. I have to post those. When you say contracts, you mean contracts with yourself or contracts with others? Because I want to make sure I'm clear about what we're saying. Because I don't know if they're different. Technically, they might be different. Um, the little girl me was very honest and very clear. Um, and I used to get my ass whooped all the time because of that. I was that kid that would tell my mother, this isn't right because you said XYZ, da da da, and I get shit knocked out of me. So I learned how to stop saying that. I learned how to stop saying that because I would get in trouble. And then once you stop saying it out loud, guess what? Internally, your um, beacon kind of gets dim, and you stop connecting to that space. But the contracts, right? So, contracts I had were based on pain. I came into this space. When I say space, I mean Earth. This construct into Marley, into what most would deem as an abusive home, and I learned. I learned from that space that certain ways of being. Mommy. Okay, well, eat your food. Feed the bear. I learned from that space that certain ways of being would get you certain things, and certain ways of being would get you other things, right? Like I was just saying with the disconnection from self. Marley, my baby chicken. Come on. Sit up here. I'm sorry. She always wants to come hang out when I'm doing something. But the contract that I had with myself when I was young, I knew that I had to be truthful. I heard that as when I was little. I knew that I had to be truthful. And I buried that contract with myself over time because I saw that the truth, especially with my mom, didn't get me anywhere. And also with other people, it honestly didn't work either. The more honest I was with my peers, the more fights I got in, the more made fun of I was, all those things. And so I learned how to bury that and to be a chameleon of sorts, be what was more necessary in order to get along with people. And the contracts that I was calling forth were about the lies that I had told in my life. I had misused and misrepresented myself in a lot of situations. A lot of people won't say they were a liar or have a tendency to lie, but I had a huge tendency to lie because I learned how to betray myself very early on. Come on, puppy. Come on, I'm trying to talk. I'm going to have to take this off and go to the living room. Because you was on it today. So I learned how to become, a chameleon of sorts. And that created a lot of issues in spaces, in intimate spaces especially. I did not learn how to be in intimate spaces with people because I did not know how to be myself. And so I attracted a lot of people. I don't want to say attracted. I chose a lot of people. Okay, baby, I'm trying to talk. I chose a lot of people based on a lie, based on me being a lie. And so I chose a lot of people who were liars. I chose them because I was lying. And those people brought a lot of detrimental things into my space that I had to unlearn because I was over-connected to the way things look versus what I needed to show up as. I hope this is making sense. I'm trying to make it make sense. But the biggest reality is that I had to shed a lot of the ways of being that I had been accustomed to for most of my life. And most of it was self-betrayal, which is a lie. Being something that you're not in order to attract or get a certain thing in life. Had to remove those types of behaviors from my space. And this would be anything down to the smallest lie about anything. And because I was a very good liar, um, it was very hard. It was very hard. And when I was alone, when I started my healing journey and I was alone, I would see the people that would come into my space that, I would start coming, cycling through my space for my healing to happen. Most of the people were liars. They were misrepresentative of who they were. And it was up to me to be honest with myself, how I had been this way in other people's lives, how I had been this way in my life, how I'd shown up incomplete in a lot of spaces and expected certain things to work out. And it was hard. And I just dealt with it honestly. I didn't really become victim-y or blame-y because I knew that I had taken up this contract to come back to my authentic self, and that my authentic self was super authentic and not a liar at all, and that this shadow behavior that I had taken on of betrayal and lying needed to be shed, and so that I would meet people who came into my space with these behaviors, and I would have to manage that space with them, right? So I had a lot of friendships and partner relationships where people were straight up liars. And I'm trying to do my work to be honest, to be authentic. So I'm like, hey, I'm a liar. I know you're lying because I know what a lie sounds like. Let's learn to be honest with each other. And it's just what most people felt like I was harming them by calling them a liar. But I wasn't just calling them a liar. I was owning that betrayal and lying is a part of my space. Because this is what I had created during my healing journey, during my life. And for my healing journey, I had to unlearn that. And if you're going to be in this space with me, I have to own that you are my mirror. You're a liar and a betrayer. You might do it differently than I do. It might even be nicer than the way that I do it. And it might even be prettier. But this is who you are. And if we're going to work this out, we have to become authentic with each other. And I still have these conversations with people who show up in my space. Not because I lie and I betray myself now, but because that is a part of who I have been. That energy doesn't just disappear. It doesn't just disperse. While it's not at 90% or 100% like it once was, it's probably at 10% or 3%, but I'm still, when I come into the space, those type of people are still attracted to me. The difference now is that I understand how this shows up and I own it. I don't run from it. I don't make it non-insequential. You know what I'm saying? I make it, I make myself aware of it in the space, and I make the people around me aware of it in the space. And that can be difficult when you have something to heal through like that, like a shadow trauma like that you have to heal through. It can be difficult to own because it feels bad. It feels, negative. You feel, bad about it. And I went through that for a minute, like feeling bad about this type of person that I had learned how to become in order to survive. But once I realized I didn't need to survive anymore and that I didn't need that behavior anymore, it became less of an issue of feeling bad and more of an issue of wanting things to be more authentic and in alignment with who I actually am vibrationally. This is why you don't see me get on here, with certain things, like portraying myself as this thing, or having this thing, or being this type of person. You get what you get. This is my walk. You get what you get. I'm not going to make myself more appealing, wearing makeup, weaves, any of that stuff in order to attract more likes, views, any of the superficial things that we are programmed to take part in. Because for me, I don't care what everybody else do. For me, that is a betrayal to myself. For me, that is a lie. And for me, that is a part of my shadow work. That I never mislead anyone. Ever. That I'm always authentic, and I'm always aware of how I am being perceived and what I am sending out to the world as a perception. And it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Even when I'm doing work around being sensual, or things like that, where people can perceive all these other things about me. And I have to be honest, this is just how I felt in the moment. This is no, whatever thing. It's not no great mystery or thing to it. And, I don't want to box myself into becoming a product to be consumed, or idea to be exploited. So I don't create or mystify anything about myself. So that's literally the time warp that I was in, because of the abuse that I suffered as a child, and I ended up in foster care because of that. I learned how to make fairy tales. I learned how to tell lies. My mom's gonna come get me. My dad's gonna come get me. I'm not gonna be in this foster home forever. I have family waiting for me. All of those little lies build up, and you start to believe them. I remember one time, I had never said this out loud. Maybe I've said this to friends, but not like this on a platform. I wanted to be a part of a good family so bad. I was like, my family's like in another country. I'm in foster care. I'm telling people my family's in another country, and when they get their visas, they're gonna come get me. This is how far gone I'd gotten away from myself, because in this world, you're either it or you're not. We give people validation based on how they look, what they have, what they appear to be like, how they sound, how, if we want what they have, right? And I learned that very early on as a child. That's how people view you. And I had to really dig in there and get all that shit out of me. And it was almost like throwing up for like 7 years, like constantly like regurgitating shit. And being in spaces with people who were similar to me, I always attracted men who were abused, either physically by their father, or their mother, or sexually abused by someone in their family, who were abandoned by their family, or were some huge betrayal of family was happening. And they had a lot of work to do, just like I had a lot of work to do. And in those spaces, the betrayal energy was so thick. They always ended up betraying themselves in our relationship. A lot of people, most people say they betrayed me. No, they betrayed themselves in our relationship. They betrayed themselves because they couldn't do the work that they were looking directly in their mirror at, which was me, to do. I was so steadfast and dedicated, that when I finally came out of those loops, and my partner now, his family and him, they're close. They do everything together. It's almost, now I'm having to learn how to be with a family. And I was telling my friend the other day how, this is work because I didn't grow up with this type of attachment, that I almost don't know what it's like to be loved by a mother, by a sister, by a father, by a grandmother. And sometimes I feel like rejecting their love because it's too much. Even though this is what I've always wanted, this is what I was talking about in foster care. My family coming to get me. My family always coming to get me. Even though they weren't and couldn't. The reality is they couldn't come get me. They weren't well. They just weren't able to do it. And when I got out in the world and got on my own, I tried to create that stuff for myself through a facade of appearing to have it all together, of appearing to be better than other people, of appearing to have the best of everything. And I had to drop that shit. I had to drop it because it was killing me. It was separating me from reality. And if I had kept going with it, God knows what kind of fucking scammer I would be. Because everybody thinks it's a scammer and send you an inbox. No, scammers are the people who walk around who fake like they have all their shit together and they invest you into their lives. And then you're sitting up here taking care of them in certain types of ways that you don't know you're contributing to their lives, and they can't do it without you. That's a scammer. That was the life that I was about to lead. One where I was never fully myself and I was a drifter with no family. And it's hard, I think, for most people to admit their childhood trauma and how it has manufactured itself in their lives as adults, and how when it's undealt with, the chaos of it is enticing. It's fun. It's never a dull moment. Now I am, other than this child talking in the background right now, but my life is very simple. It's not as complex. There's not a lot of parts. I teach yoga. I meditate a lot. I stay in the house and I mind my business. And when I am doing the things that I will do one day, the traveling and all of those things, I will be doing them from a space of not I'm doing this to prove or to show other people, but because this is what I want to do. This is really how I am expressing myself right now. I hope this makes sense to anyone who is listening. I heard that conversation this morning that healing is boring, and it hit me like, yeah, it's boring to not be a trauma-filled impersonation of a human. It's boring. Doing yoga, doing the same repetitive movements, eating raw food, minding my business is boring. Not having pictures to put up to show everybody what I own or all the places I'm going is boring. That's the life that I was trying to lead out of a betrayal to myself, because I wanted to be more than what I had been. It was important to my trauma-filled self to not be the little girl whose mother couldn't take care of her and had to end up in foster care and be abandoned and didn't know my dad. It was important for me to separate myself from that story so that I could prove to the world that I was worthy. When in fact I am worthy without all of that. So I think that's everything, y'all. I hope this works out and heals and helps someone. And I will see you guys next time. I need to put some yoga with some crystal information. I'll get around to it. But I hope y'all have a good day. And thank y'all for hanging out with me for these last 45 minutes. I'll see you guys later. Peace.